Hey everyone, this is Michael again, and welcome to the AEW Dynamite review. Dynamite tonight was from the Liacouras Center in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. And Dynamite tonight, this was a very good show. It was an enjoyable show. The crowd there in Philadelphia was hot throughout the night, and the show flew by, in my opinion. Very fast-paced show it was. And the matches that we saw on Dynamite tonight, we saw the Owen Hart Foundation Tournament qualifying match where FTR ended up taking on each other. Both Dax Harwood and Cash Wheeler fought each other. We saw the Blackpool Combat Club, Bryan Danielson, Jon Moxley, and Wheeler Yuta. They ended up taking on QT Marshall, Aaron Solo, and Nick Comoroto. This was, of course, in Wheeler Yuta's hometown of Philadelphia. We had Warlow versus Lance Archer. We had a Philadelphia street fight. Serena Deeb versus Hikaru Shida. And we had a return tonight, which I will get to explaining later. And in the main event, we had a ladder match for the TNT Championship where Scorpio Sky versus Sammy Guevara. So that was the main event of Dynamite tonight. And we also got the 10-man tag where it was the Young Bucks and Undisputed Elite, Redragon, and Adam Cole versus the Varsity Blondes, Griff Garrison, Brian Pillman Jr., Dante Martin, Brock Anderson, and Lee Johnson. But overall, Dynamite tonight, awesome show it was. Very good show. But anyways, let's jump right into the review. Dynamite opened up tonight with the Owen Hart Foundation Tournament qualifying match. Dax Harwood versus Cash Wheeler. Both FTR guys going at it. And this was a very good match here. Both Harwood and Wheeler, both guys gave it all they got in the match. And I forgot to mention, CM Punk was on commentary for this Dynamite. He did commentary all through the night, which was awesome. It was good hearing Punk on commentary. But the match started off here with Harwood and Wheeler. They ended up locking up. Both guys worked on each other's arms. Cash Wheeler ended up taking down Harwood, and they went back and forth. And they came back up. They got a standing ovation from the Philly crowd. Both guys ended up shaking hands. Wheeler ended up dropping Harwood with some shoulder tackles. And he then responded with an arm drag. Harwood then ended up raking the eye of Wheeler. And it led to Wheeler firing up and shoving Harwood. And he delivered a knee strike to Harwood. So we had Harwood and Wheeler. They ended up scaling to the top turnbuckle. Harwood ended up nailing a superplex, which led to both guys being down on the mat. Harwood ended up missing with a diving headbutt, and Wheeler connected with a baseball slide, which sent Harwood out to the floor. Wheeler then ended up continuing to attack Harwood in the ring, which he ended up sending Harwood stunning first into the turnbuckles. Wheeler, after he hit Harwood into the turnbuckles, he then went for a German suplex, and he maintained the waist lock, and he ended up doing two more suplexes to Harwood. So Wheeler was looking to go for a fourth suplex, but Harwood reversed it and hit a German suplex of his own to Wheeler. So both Harwood and Wheeler, they end up having the same thought in mind. They end up hitting the ropes. They collided in the middle of the ring. So Both guys went back and forth, delivering some punches, and they were exchanging near falls. Harwood ended up looking to go for a slingshot powerbomb. Wheeler reversed it and delivered a hurricanrana to Harwood. And he almost catched him with a pinfall. And Harwood ended up going for, the same move, a hurricanrana. And he ended up connecting. And he ended up going for the cover. Wheeler was able to kick out. So we had Harwood end up cutting Wheeler off on the top turnbuckle. Wheeler then ended up sliding underneath Harwood, ended up pushing Harwood down, and his knee brace was caught on the turnbuckle. Harwood's knee brace was caught. Harwood and Wheeler ended up spilling to the outside. Wheeler ended up tweaking his knee as they both went to the outside. So as they were on the outside, the referee was counting for them to get back into the ring. Both guys end up getting back into the ring just before the ref counted 10. Harwood then ended up going for the sharpshooter, but he came out of the sharpshooter because he didn't want to hurt Wheeler because that's his partner. However, Harwood ended up deciding to go for the sharpshooter, and Wheeler ended up going for a roll-up, and Dax ended up reversing it, and there you go. Dax Harwood end up winning the match. Harwood will be moving on in the Owen Hart Foundation tournament. But overall, very good match from both Harwood and Wheeler. Both guys gave it all they got here. It was very entertaining, and both guys, they were wearing the skull, Bret Hart's skull on their tights, which was cool, referencing, Bret Hart. And there was talk of Bret Hart being the new manager for FTR. But that's not going to happen now, because there was a report that came out that Bret Hart signed a lucrative deal with WWE. And with this lucrative deal that Bret Hart quietly signed, he would no longer appear on AEW shows. And Dave Meltzer of the Wrestling Observer newsletter ended up reporting that. But Bret Hart could do indie shows, but he can't appear on AEW, because of this lucrative deal with WWE. WWE, they wanted to keep Bret Hart from ever going to AEW. And I think Bret Hart should have made an appearance there at AEW and honored this tournament, because that was his brother. I think he should have went there and just honored, this tournament. And for anybody who will win the tournament, for the women and for the men. But now that's not going to happen. And with that report stating that Bret Hart might be the new manager for FTR, not happening now. Which sucks. Because, WWE, they want to keep him from ever going to AEW. And WWE thinks, AEW is not competition. It is competition. But overall, very good match between Harwood and Wheeler. Very enjoyable. And then we had CM Punk. CM Punk got on the mic. He got up from the commentary table and got on the mic. And he ended up saying that he has never been in a more talented locker room than this, the AEW locker room. Punk ended up saying that before he came here, he asked himself if he could still do this. Punk was away for 7 years. So he asked himself if he could still do this. Punk ended up saying now he can stand here and say, hell yeah, he can. he wants to say that he is a fan of Adam Page, and to not disparage anyone he's faced, other than Eddie Kingston, as everything has been warming up. Punk wants to say that he can't promise a win, but he promises to give 100%. He ended up saying that without the fans, there is no CM Punk. Without the fans, he doesn't come back to wrestling. Punk went on to say that he isn't a gambling man, but he will always bet on himself. He ended up saying that at Double or Nothing, Page will know he has been in the fight, and he is going to fight until the wheels fall off. So that was what Punk had to say. Good promo from Punk there. It was announced that at Double or Nothing it's going to be Punk versus Page for the AEW World Championship. And Hangman Adam Page was supposed to be on Dynamite tonight, but he wasn't because he ended up getting COVID. So hope Page, gets over COVID. Hope he gets well, and he'll be back, and we could get, the Punk and Page, storyline, going again. So, but wishing Page the best, and hope he feels better. And then we had Scorpio Sky and Dan Lambert backstage. Dan Lambert ended up saying that the ladder match is not a coincidence. Scorpio Sky ended up putting over his accomplishments. He ended up saying that he was screwed out of the TNT Championship. Scorpio Sky ended up saying that he's not here to complain. So he ended up saying that the Philly crowd is here to see him beat Guevara's ass. And there can only be one face of TNT. And that is him. So, good little backstage segment with Scorpio Sky and Dan Lambert. It didn't make sense as to why Scorpio Sky lost the TNT Championship, which the TNT Championship reverted back to Sammy Guevara at Battle of the Belts 2. It doesn't make any sense why Scorpio Sky lost. And then we had the Blackpool Combat Club. Bryan Danielson, Jon Moxley, and Wheeler Yuta in his hometown versus QT Marshall, Nick Comoroto, and Aaron Solo, The Factory. And this was a enjoyable tag team match here. Trios tag team match. So we had William Regal. He was on commentary. Always a joy to hear Regal on commentary. So we had the Blackpool Combat Club. They ended up attacking QT Marshall, Aaron Solo, Nick Comoroto. They were brawling on the outside of the ring. Moxley then ended up attacking Comoroto. So we had Moxley end up dominating on the match. Aaron Solo tagged in. Mox ended up just striking some forearms to Aaron Solo. Wheeler Yuta then came in, got a big pop from his hometown crowd, and he laid a drop kick to Aaron Solo. Comoroto ended up coming back in, and Yuta delivered a drop kick to Comoroto. Comoroto then got back up, and he delivered a back body drop onto Yuta. So we had Comoroto. He ended up charging Yuta in the corner. QT Marshall then tagged in, and he started just laying some punches to Yuta. And we had, the Factory. They were just making frequent tags to each other to remain in control of the match. Comoroto ended up dumping Yuta out of the ring, and then Comoroto ended up slamming Yuta onto the ring apron. Solo ended up attacking Wheeler Yuta. Moxley was trying to help Yuta, but he ended up getting knocked out to the floor. QT Marshall came back in, and QT was mocking the yes chant, to which Yuta ended up laying out QT Marshall with a suplex. Bryan came in, and he was laying some uppercuts and chops and kicks to Aaron Solo. He ended up delivering a missile drop kick to Solo. Solo ended up avoiding the kick, and Bryan ended up putting Solo in the label lock, to which QT Marshall ended up breaking up the label lock. Moxley then ended up launching QT Marshall across the ring, and then him and Bryan end up going back and forth to their opposite corners to attack their opponents, which was awesome. So at the end of the match, we had Bryan and Moxley. They end up coming in. They locked in submissions on their opponents. Wheeler Yuta ended up setting Nick Comoroto into a pin and submission. And there you go. The Blackpool Combat Club ended up winning the match. Overall, very good, entertaining trios tag team match here. The trios titles will be coming soon. And they'll be here before you know it. So we'll like to see those trios titles come in and come into play. And then we had Tony Schiavone. Tony Schiavone was with Dr. Britt Baker, DMD, Tony Storm, and Jamie Hayter. All three women are moving on in the Owen Hart Foundation tournament. They won their qualifying matches. So Tony Storm ended up saying that she will see Jamie Hayter in the first round, and that she wants Britt Baker to say hello to her friend. So Ruby Soho ended up coming over. And, it's been a while since we've seen Ruby Soho on Dynamite. They reduced her to being on AEW Dark, which I think that should not have Ruby Soho on there. I think Ruby Soho, should be on Dynamite. She shouldn't be wasting over there on AEW Dark. So Ruby Soho needs to be on Dynamite a lot more. So Ruby Soho ended up saying that she notices they always have something to say, and she can't imagine a better way to make the change than dropping them right now. Britt Baker ended up saying that there's no physicality, so they're going to visit Ruby's home. Catering. So pretty much that was, basically that. And then we saw Jungle Boy and Christian Cage and Luchasaurus, the Jurassic Express. Tony Schiavone was backstage interviewing them. Jungle Boy ended up saying that he knew he could have won last week. Christian Cage ended up saying that he sounds like a loser, but that was a teachable moment. He ended up saying that they can right or wrong. So that led to Ricky Starks appearing, and Starks ended up challenging them to a match against him and Powerhouse Will Hobbs. So we're going to be getting that match. And then we had Lance Archer versus Warlow. Lance Archer ended up making his way out first alongside Jake the Snake Roberts. And then MJF's music ended up hitting. And just like last week, MJF and Shawn Spears were shown sitting in the skybox, having popcorn in hand. They had a glass of champagne on the table. So MJF ended up getting on the mic, and MJF ended up claiming that women in Philadelphia use their personalities as birth control. Because he was like, do you know what the women of Philadelphia use for birth control? Their personality. Which, that was funny, what MJF said. So MJF ended up claiming that Lance Archer will beat the pig you're referring to as Warlow now. So, once again, Warlow came out, no music, security escort, still in handcuffs. So he made his way down with the security, and as he made his way down to the ring, security ended up taking off the handcuffs off of Warlow, and Lance Archer launched himself into the security to take down Warlow. So we had Warlow end up leaping into a Hurricanrana, and he leapt over Lance Archer. He ended up driving him into the corner, repeatedly. Warlow then ended up slamming Lance Archer down. Archer was looking to go for a choke slam, and Warlow ended up reversing out of it. And we had Warlow and Lance Archer. They both were thinking about doing a clothesline, and they ended up dropping each other. So both guys were laid out. And as both guys got back up, they started trading blows at each other. Lance Archer ended up scaling the ropes. He was, doing the Undertaker, where he's walking on the top rope, and he took out Warlow. So Archer followed it up and delivered a choke slam, to Warlow, and Archer went for the cover. Warlow kicked out. Lance Archer was then setting up the blackout on Warlow. Lance Archer nailed the blackout, only for Warlow to reverse the pin attempt with one of his own. So Lance Archer ended up trying to set up the blackout again. Warlow started fighting back from the turnbuckle with some headbutts. And Warlow ended up hitting a senton on Lance Archer. And Warlow ended up going for the cover. Archer kicked out. Warlow then ended up nailing the powerbomb. And the powerbomb symphony began. So Warlow ended up delivering 3 powerbombs to Lance Archer. And then went for the cover. There you go. Warlow ended up winning the match. Overall, decent match between Lance Archer and Warlow. And then we had a backstage segment with MJF and Shawn Spears, where MJF ended up saying who Warlow's opponent for next week is going to be, which I will get to explaining. So then after that, we had the Jericho Appreciation Society in the ring. There was a table there. There was water bottles set up. So Angelo Parker ended up getting on the mic. He ended up claiming that they had to agree that to no physicality, which the Jericho Appreciation Society have done, and so have the Rats. So Eddie Kingston, Santana Ortiz ended up coming out. Jericho ended up telling everyone they're lucky enough to be living in his era. He kept saying that they deprived the world seeing him last week. So Jericho ended up demanding an apology. Ortiz got on the mic, and he kept saying to Jericho that he has something better. So Ortiz was like, "Oh, well, let me find it. Let me find it." So he went to his pocket, thinking that he was going to pull out something, and he ended up flipping off Jericho. And Santana did the same thing, where he's like, "Oh, let me find this." So he ended up taking out his wallet, and then all of a sudden he flipped off Jericho, put his wallet back into his pocket, and Santana saying that Jericho turned his back on the 2 men who know him best. Of course, because Santana Ortiz were with Jericho in the inner circle. So obviously, both Santana Ortiz know Jericho very well. So Daniel Garcia ended up getting on the mic. Daniel Garcia started mocking Eddie Kingston's eyebrows. He ended up saying that the threats mean nothing, as they can't hit them. Santana Ortiz and Eddie Kingston can't hit, the guys of the Jericho Appreciation Society. So Eddie Kingston got on the mic. He ended up saying that he hates all of this sports entertainment crap. Kingston ended up saying that they're going to get Chris Jericho regardless, and he doesn't care if it's 5-on-3. To which Jericho ended up saying that is the problem, as they're not smart enough to realize it's 5-on-3. So they're putting a hit on them, and will take them out one by one. Kingston ended up asking Jericho if he knows what a hit miss. He ended up saying that in his world, that means he ends things. So Jericho ended up saying that no wrestling company wants Eddie Kingston, and this is Kingston's last chance. So he needs to stand and do as he is told, bitch, as what he said to Eddie Kingston. So Eddie Kingston ended up saying that he isn't going to hit Jericho, and that he can smell the fear coming off him. Eddie Kingston ended up saying that they've done it before, and they'll put them in the ground. He ended up telling Jericho they're not prepared to do that. And that was how the segment ended, but this was the best segment of the night, in my opinion. I really enjoyed this segment, and with Eddie Kingston getting up in Jericho's face, Jericho had a sense of fear on his face. He looked scared as fuck as Eddie Kingston got in his face. And, it's just Jericho, I guess, blending the emotion well with being scared that Eddie Kingston was in his face, just screaming at him. But he looked like he was scared shitless. But best segment of the night. Really enjoyed it. And then we had the Philly street fight. Serena Deeb versus Hikaru Shida. And this was a decent street fight. We had Serena Deeb end up coming out first, and then Hikaru Shida. So Serena Deeb started off the match delivering some uppercuts to Hikaru Shida. Hikaru Shida came back and dropped Serena Deeb, and it was a all-out brawl between these two. Both Deeb and Shida end up heading to the outside. Shida ended up setting up a chair to run and jump on Serena Deeb. Deeb got out of the way, and Shida was able to catch Serena Deeb, and she ended up slamming Deeb into the top turnbuckle several times. Hikaru Shida ended up sending Serena Deeb across the top rope, and she ended up charging in with a knee strike to Serena Deeb. So Shida ended up trying to catch Deeb with the strike, but she ended up blocking it with a chair. Serena Deeb then ended up hitting the knee breaker onto Hikaru Shida, dropping her onto the chair. Serena Deeb then ended up hitting a swinging neck breaker on Hikaru Shida. Deeb ended up going for the cover. Shida ended up kicking out. Serena Deeb ended up attacking Hikaru Shida's knee. She ended up wrapping Shida's knee in the bottom ropes, and Serena Deeb ended up blocking in a submission. Just started stomping down onto Shida's knee. So we had Serena Deeb. She continued to use the chair. She was swinging the chair at Hikaru Shida's knee, just focusing on Shida's injured knee. Hikaru Shida ended up hitting a reversal on Serena Deeb. She ended up launching Serena Deeb face first into the chair. Serena Deeb ended up launching some powder into Hikaru Shida's eyes, so Hikaru Shida couldn't see because of that. Serena Deeb ended up following that up with some kendo stick strikes to Hikaru Shida. Shida ended up hitting a body drop onto Serena Deeb. And she got a hold of the kendo stick, and she still couldn't see. She ended up swinging the kendo stick. She almost hit Aubrey Edwards, but she ended up ducking. Aubrey Edwards ended up ducking, and then she hit it at Serena Deeb. So she then got out of the ring, Hikaru Shida, and she took water and just put the water on her eyes, and she wiped off the powder. So Hikaru Shida then launched herself off the steps with a drop kick to Serena Deeb, and she was just delivering some strikes with the kendo stick onto Serena Deeb. Deeb ended up countering with the chair, and she ended up going up to the top rope. So Hikaru Shida then ended up hitting the Avalanche Falcon Arrow onto Serena Deeb, which was awesome. And Hikaru Shida ended up going for the cover. Deeb ended up kicking out. So Hikaru Shida ended up lifting up Serena Deeb. Serena Deeb ended up reversing it. She ended up doing a thumb to the eye on Hikaru Shida. And Serena Deeb ended up setting up the Serenity Lock, and she was hammering Hikaru Shida's knee down on the chair. Serena Deeb then ended up locking in the Texas Cloverleaf, and that was that. Serena Deeb ended up winning the match. But overall, this was a decent match between Serena Deeb and Hikaru Shida. Decent Philly street fight. And then we had MJF and Shawn Spears backstage. Lexi Nair was there, and MJF ended up telling Lexi Nair to get lost. And MJF ended up saying that he has a plan. And he said the plan is going to be a good one. So MJF ended up getting on the phone with someone. And he asks this person how they'd feel about making 6 figures in one match. So MJF ended up saying that next week, Warlow faces a man who is smarter and taller. And you can't teach that. So obviously from that, we all know who it's going to be. It's going to be Big Cass, so we're going to be getting Warlow versus Big Cass next week on Dynamite. Big Cass, he's in Impact. He's in Impact Wrestling. So he's under the name W. Morrissey. So he's going to be facing Warlow next week on Dynamite. So haven't seen him in the ring in a while, since he left WWE. And then we went back to the ring, and the lights ended up going out. And we saw Fuego del Sol, or Fuego del Jobber, laid out in the middle of the ring. And the House of Black were in there. Malachi Black, Brody King, and Buddy Matthews. Malachi Black was looking to pull the mask off of Fuego del Sol. And Alex Abrahantes ended up appearing in the ring. Alex Abrahantes ended up saying that they've been waiting for the moment to blindside the House of Black. So we had Penta and Pac end up appearing on the stage. So Alex Abrahantes was still in the ring, and we had the return of Rey FENIX. So Rey FENIX was behind the House of Black. Rey FENIX had a shovel in hand. He kept swinging the shovel, and we had Penta and Pac end up attacking, and FENIX end up hitting Buddy Matthews, hitting a foot stomp to Buddy Matthews. And then we had FENIX, Penta, and Pac end up launching themselves out of the ring, taking it down the House of Black. And that was that. So it looks like we're going to be getting Death Triangle versus the House of Black. So that should be good. But I would like to see them do this. I would like to see Buddy Matthews versus Rey FENIX. Man, if they make that match will be fucking awesome. I am looking forward to if they do that match, which I know they do. I want to see Rey FENIX and Buddy Matthews. Those two guys would deliver in that match together, one-on-one. So I know that they're going to book that match at some point. I can't wait to see it. And then we had Tony Schiavone. Tony Schiavone was backstage with Swerve Strickland and Darby Allin. Swerve ended up saying that friends is a strong term. They're rivals who beat each other up. And he's looking forward to making Rampage his house. So Darby Allin ended up saying that he hates to break it to him, but AEW is his house. And that he's been here since day one. And he will show Swerve why the tournament is his as well. So that was that. Good little backstage segment with Swerve and Darby Allin. And then we had the Undisputed Elite, Adam Cole and Redragon and the Young Bucks versus the Varsity Blondes, Griff Garrison and Brian Pillman Jr., Dante Martin, Brock Anderson, and Lee Johnson. This was a 10-man tag team match, and it was an entertaining match. Although it felt like a match that you would see on AEW Dark, in my opinion, just by the competitors, Dante Martin, Lee Johnson, Brock Anderson. These are superstars. These are stars that you would see on AEW Dark. But we had the Undisputed Elite. They end up starting off the match, attacking, their opponents. Dante Martin was able to take down Matt Jackson and Kyle O'Reilly. And Brian Pillman Jr. ended up coming in. Brian Pillman Jr. ended up attacking Kyle O'Reilly. Griff Garrison came in. Griff Garrison and Brian Pillman Jr. were working on them. But the Young Bucks came in and they end up getting rid of the Varsity Blondes. So Lee Johnson and Brock Anderson end up dealing with the Bucks. They end up taking each other out one by one. So we had Brock Anderson later on. He ended up getting distracted in the match, which allowed Bobby Fish to take advantage. So we had the Undisputed Elite later on. They ended up taking control of the match. And Nick Jackson ended up planning Lee Johnson face first. And he ended up diving to the outside, taking out the rest of the guys out there. So we had the Bucks end up attacking. The Bucks end up attacking them again. They end up hitting a 4-way BTE trigger, and Adam Cole ended up coming in, delivering the boom. There you go. The Undisputed Elite ended up winning the match. Overall, it was a entertaining 10-man tag team match. And then we went backstage, and the Jericho Appreciation Society ended up beating down on Santana Ortiz and Eddie Kingston. So Santana Ortiz were laid out. We had the Jericho Appreciation Society end up holding up Eddie Kingston. So Jericho then ended up throwing a fireball in Eddie Kingston's face. And so Eddie Kingston, was just, in pain, screaming, "Oh, My eye, my face. So that was, what we saw. And then we had the main event. Sammy Guevara versus Scorpio Sky. Ladder match for the TNT Championship. Sammy Guevara ended up coming out along with Tay Conti. Scorpio Sky, of course, with Dan Lambert. And Guevara and Tay Conti, they end up coming out to boos from the crowd. If you remember last week on Dynamite, Guevara ended up turning heel. And, just the crowd just is hating on Guevara and Tay Conti. And I said last week in my review, if they do this right with Guevara and Tay Conti, they both could be the Edge and Lita of AEW. Just like how Edge and Lita were back, like 2004, 2005, around there. That could be Guevara and Tay Conti if, AEW does it right. We could be looking at the next Edge and Lita. So, before Sammy Guevara got to the ring, Scorpio Sky ended up brawling with Guevara. He ended up launching Guevara into the guardrail, and he ended up going to get the ladder. And as Scorpio Sky ended up bringing the ladder down, Sammy Guevara ended up trying to deliver a baseball slide to him. Scorpio Sky ended up lifting the ladder, and he ended up moving backward as he ended up smashing Sammy Guevara with the ladder. Guevara ended up turning things around in the match. He ended up delivering a German suplex to Scorpio Sky on the ramp, and you hear that thud of Scorpio Sky landing from that suplex. And then Guevara ended up sending Scorpio Sky into the barricade. So Sammy Guevara ended up climbing up the ladder. He ended up getting one hand on the TNT Championship. Scorpio Sky brought Guevara back down. Sammy Guevara ended up catapulting Scorpio Sky, and he ended up leaping up. He started climbing the ladder, only to be dragged back down. So Guevara climbed some of the ladder, and he flipped down backwards, and he ended up clipping Scorpio Sky. And Sammy Guevara, when he did that, he landed awkwardly. So I think Sammy Guevara at that spot in the match, he might have had a concussion there. So Scorpio Sky ended up trying to climb up the ladder. Sammy ended up pushing the ladder, which led to Scorpio Sky hitting the top rope. So Tay Conti got involved. She ended up taking a shot at Scorpio Sky. Scorpio Sky ended up hitting a kick to Guevara. So Sky ended up climbing the ladder. So Guevara ended up leaping across in midair. He got caught with a cutter from Scorpio Sky, which looked absolutely amazing. That was an amazing cutter that Scorpio Sky did to Guevara in off the ladder, which was cool. So Scorpio Sky ended up getting out of the ring, and he retrieved a ladder from under the ring. And this ladder was wrapped in barbed wire. So he then put the ladder with the barbed wire in the ring. So Sammy Guevara hit a standing smash fly to Scorpio Sky. Guevara ended up grabbing Dan Lambert. So Tay Conti came in. Tay Conti ended up delivering a low blow to Dan Lambert. So then Paige Van Zandt ended up coming into the ring. Paige Van Zandt and Tay Conti ended up brawling. Scorpio Sky and Sammy Guevara did the same. Both guys were brawling. There was a spot where Guevara ended up slamming Scorpio Sky onto the barbed wire, on the barbed wire ladder. And Scorpio Sky climbed the ladder. He had Tay Conti on his shoulders. Sam Guevara ended up climbing up the ladder on the other side. and Paige Van Zandt was on Guevara's shoulders. And so Tay Conti and Paige Van Zandt, they were going at the top. And both women ended up dropping down from the ladder. And they took each other out with roundhouse kicks. So both Paige and Tay Conti were laid out. So Sammy Guevara ended up flipping Scorpio Sky off. And Scorpio Sky ended up biting Guevara's finger. His middle finger, to which he ended up flipping off Scorpio Sky. So Sammy Guevara started fighting Scorpio Sky down. Scorpio Sky then ended up pulling the ladder. And Guevara went back first. He bounced off the barbed wire ladder. So his back ended up hitting the barbed wire, Guevara. So Scorpio Sky ended up climbing up the ladder. Guevara springboard back, which was crazy. So Scorpio Sky ended up fighting Sam Guevara down again. And so Scorpio Sky retrieved the TNT Championship and wins the ladder match. So Scorpio Sky, once again, is the TNT Champion. Post-match, Ethan Page ended up coming down to celebrate with Scorpio Sky. Frank Kazarian ended up appearing. Frank Kazarian, Scorpio Sky, once known as SCU. Good tag team that they were, both Kazarian and Scorpio Sky together. So Frank Kazarian ended up respecting Scorpio Sky. Scorpio Sky respected Frank Kazarian. They respected each other. And that was how Dynamite went off the air tonight. Overall, very good ladder match. Very enjoyable. Scorpio Sky, once again, the TNT Champion. To which this whole situation with the TNT Championship, Tony Khan, he's playing hot potato with the TNT Championship. Like, does he want Scorpio Sky to be the TNT Champion? Or does he want Sammy Guevara to be the TNT Champion? It's hot potato with the TNT Championship. It's like Tony Khan can't figure if he wants Scorpio Sky or Sammy Guevara as the champion. Because Sammy Guevara ended up winning it, only for it to go to Scorpio Sky, only for Scorpio Sky to drop the TNT Championship back to Guevara at Battle of the Belts 2, only for Scorpio Sky to win back the title tonight in the ladder match. So TNT Championship is being treated like a hot potato. And that's not good. So I think why they ended up putting the title back on Scorpio Sky, I think Tony Khan realized that he made a mistake on putting the TNT Championship back on Guevara. So he rewarded it back to Scorpio Sky. But it's just hot potato with the TNT Championship. It shouldn't be like that. So overall, Dynamite was a good show tonight. Very enjoyable show. But anyways, that's it for the Dynamite review. Thank you all for watching. Hope you all enjoyed this review. Definitely give the video a thumbs up, comment, subscribe. And I will see you guys on Friday for SmackDown and AEW Rampage. So see you all Friday for that.